I certainly have to apologise there. I didn't understand that there was no audio coming through. I thought my microphone was connected correctly there. If you didn't hear anything I said, well, England's are a goal up. As Sterling has brought down Karavayev. A very clumsy challenge to get the ball. Again, many apologies there for the technical issues there. I was certain the microphone was plugged in as usual. It's a bit of an awkward slot to plug it into. As England defend this set piece, Ukraine still keep hold of it. Karavayev much more lively now, thankfully. I was worried he had suffered much worse from the collision with Sterling, would have to go off early. Ball played into the centre. Ukraine doing well to retain the ball at this point, and it's nice to see them already trying to push to get level early on. Back with Georgi Bushchan, but the long ball didn't work. England with possession, but Shaw gives it back over. And again, given away. England passing around the defence. Maguire here to Sterling. Stones. Declan Rice, Walker. Maguire switching play over to Rice, who has been much more of a centre-back than a midfielder, you could argue. As I mentioned, has played there a lot in the past, even though midfield's likely to be his trade in the future. Ball given away to Ukraine, though, who tried to counter. Yarmolenko here. Will certainly go for a cross, but it meets nobody. England gets it away. Kane can't find a teammate. Out to Alexander Zinchenko, but it's overhit for him. My apologies, that wasn't Zinchenko. Certainly looked like him on the left side there. He would be playing in a left midfield role, I believe. No, he is playing more centrally today. That's a wonderful pass from Sterling again for the goal. And despite this very much being an away game for England, many questioning whether the departure from Wembley would affect their mentality, their confidence. Certainly not based on the opening moments of this game so far. You can see the set piece, but still have looked relatively solid, of course. It's now 5 goals scored, none conceded still. And a break down the left with Kyle Walker here, who has won a throw-in. Maybe not the end result he wanted. Would have hoped to have crossed it, or at least a corner would have been nice. Phillips doesn't control it well. Back to John Stones. Maguire. So many players from the Mancunian clubs in this 11. The only two which aren't from Manchester, other than goalkeeper Jordan Pickford. Kane, Mount, Rice and Phillips. And of course, 3 of those players I mentioned are from London. But a back line consisting of Manchester City and Manchester United players. The wide men in England's attack of Manchester City and recently Manchester United. Jadon Sancho's deal with the Red Devils announced recently. And already questions asked as to what he could do in improving their creativity and opportunities at scoring. Maguire here. England's defence certainly respectable with Tyrone Mings in goal. In the the left-sided centre-back position. And that ball can't find Yaremchuk. But Ukraine have dropped back and England have to start play through Ukraine's block all over again. Jadon Sancho's pass out of play, although he's won the throw-in. That ball just in play there, no. Sterling doing very well to keep a foot to it in any sense, but it had already gone over the white lines. Yarmolenko back with Ukraine's defenders. Lots of course, Dynamo Kiev players in Ukraine's starting 11 today. As it's headed back to Jordan Pickford. You have on the left Mykola Matvienko, who actually plays for Shakhtar Donetsk, the left-sided centre-back. Sergei Kritsov, and a break for Ukraine here. And a good save from Pickford. Turns it round the post. Yaremchuk would have to score. If he was to score in this match, it would have to be tonight. Of course, Schick's goal for the Czech Republic, taking him up to 5. He's tied with Cristiano Ronaldo. Corner for Ukraine. No Ukrainian players near it particularly. It's kept away from Sancho. Ukraine certainly looking solid from an offensive point of view. Whether or not they score goals is another matter. Into Yarmolenko, and before the shot can be taken from the edge of the box, it's cleared out. So Sergei Kritsov also plays for Shakhtar Donetsk, a veteran, has been at the club for more than a decade, and Ilya Zabarny of Dynamo Kiev. So centre-backs who haven't necessarily gained a lot of prominence before this tournament got underway. Of course, Dynamo Kiev and Shakhtar Donetsk have been in UEFA's Champions League competition in the last few years. Donetsk even reaching the knockout stages a couple of years back. But otherwise, I'm sure for many people, this tournament is the first experiences they've had of watching these centre-backs in action, and they might be threatened here. Sterling couldn't find Sancho. Out of play. It's Matvienko who's gone down. Not looking very happy with his left leg, his stronger foot. Again, Raheem Sterling involved. Although I don't think Sterling did anything intentional there to injure his opponent. Looked like Matvienko was a bit too keen getting the ball there. Here's Roman Yaremchuk's chance, easily Ukraine's best so far tonight. It's coming up to 380 minutes and counting without conceding for England. In no small part thanks to Jordan Pickford's great shot stopping. It's a wonder why he's struggled to come near that level of performance for Everton. The only thing I could suggest is maybe it's tactics. England and Everton with different play styles, and there may be another change in Everton's style of play yet, with Rafa Benitez coming in to replace the Bernabeu-bound Carlo Ancelotti. Ball forward, going nowhere, but into Bushan. Shaw keeps it in play, and in England's possession, yes. And Sterling, having conceded a couple of free kicks, has now won one himself. "21 minutes played so far. England's, of course, as things stand, I can't jinx it too much, but on course for their first European semi-final in 25 years, their third in a row in a major competition if you count the UEFA Nations League. They top that group containing Spain and Croatia. This is another great attack. Raheem Sterling here. Shaw doesn't find anyone in the box. before Phillips considered arriving. It's with Ukraine who clear it away, but England still in possession. It's their turn to apply pressure again. Really solid, really good work on the ball from Sterling and Shaw. Just no one on the end of any chance that they could create something from. Ukraine play it back to their centre-backs and then back to the goalkeeper. Ukraine have won a free kick through Karavayev. Impeded by Shaw. Krivitsov. That's Kritsov. Krivitsov, it turns out. Ukraine attempting to go forward. Yarmolenko can't control that. You do wonder with certain players how much the tiredness and any small niggling injuries they have after their 4 games are affecting them. Yarmolenko substituted off, I believe, with fitness issues against Sweden. Nothing to do with health-related issues necessarily, but his knocks, the blows he suffered, had finally caught up with him completely and couldn't play any further part in that game. Thankfully, his services, if needed from the penalty spot, or a bit of late heroism, weren't required in the end. Ukraine still able to take that one. Definitely underdogs in that game as well against Sweden, as they are certainly the underdogs here tonight. Sweden after the group stage when they topped it no less, containing Spain, who are still in the tournament and also heading for the semi-finals. Ultimately going home, it looks so good. Certainly the favourites going into that match against Ukraine. Kane again dropping back, as he has done. He certainly is getting more of an idea of where the goal is at. Thrown for England. Jadon Sancho back to Kyle Walker. Maguire. Maguire seeking out new teammate Jadon Sancho there. Could well be we see that pass sequence many more times for the Red Devils in their new club season, although could even be that Maguire could be partnered with Real Madrid's Rafael Varane. That would definitely be an upgrade for them. It's with Sterling. Sterling tries a shot. Too many players in the way. Ukraine briefly have it, but before they can launch a counter, Jordan Pickford directs it to Phillips. So with Maguire still in a tricky amount of space, but finds its way back to Stones. Walker with a really good ball over the top against Sancho, or so I thought. It is offside. And Sancho timed his run way too early. Shaw here. Sterling. Free kick. And Ukraine had a very promising set piece. No more than 5 minutes after going behind against England. As Kvitsov has given it away, it is Luke Shaw who is considering delivering this. It is Shaw to take. And the header's over the bar from Kane. Decided he was best trying to direct that up and not down, but it went over the bar. And I don't think there was a lot of space to direct it low either side of the goalkeeper. So it's with Ukraine. Almost half an hour played so far. Not been the most action-packed game. That's often the case of England, but as long as they're creating history, I'm sure a lot of fans won't care. It's already quite an exciting tournament, as usual. The knockout stages have wiped out so many teams, produced so many unexpected faces, as I'm sure we all hoped. The Italians and Spain playing out one semi-final. Denmark awaiting the victors in this one. But when France, Germany, Portugal, Belgium are the sorts of teams who are playing no further part in this. And a good number of those I mentioned not even getting into the quarter-finals. Never mind beyond that. It's certainly been an exciting tournament in that respect. Sancho with a nice run. Just want to throw in. Jadon Sancho, who I know a lot of people were desperate to see take part in the England setup. A number of people calling for Southgate's head because he wasn't calling him. Citing Sancho's no doubt spectacular performances for Borussia Dortmund in his 4 years at the club. Signed for £8 million and now sold by Dortmund for 10 times that. But in 20 appearances for England, starting as early as 2018, he has only scored 3 goals. A lot of people then blaming Sancho's lack of playing time or the team setup, but still, it's not the most spectacular record. I'm not sure what his assists record is for England either, but here he is again on the ball. Cross, and the centre-backs beat it before Pete Kane to it. Shaw hit. Sterling. Sterling with a low cross, and again no one to meet it. Rice! Oh, good save Bushan. It's with Kane. And the rebound is blocked. Bushan has made some really nice saves in this tournament, particularly one where he noticed that a shot had been deflected just in time against the Netherlands, even though it was still 0-0, and Kvitsov is down. It's a great curving shot, and it's more or less into Bushan, but he has still done well. Still did well to stop that one. It was with such power. A lesser goalkeeper might have seen it smash through his hands and into the net. And it isn't... well, this is a sad thing to see. So many injuries at this tournament. The Another Spinazzola, regretfully one of the worst victims, suffered a Achilles injury, which could well put him out for several months. And Declan Rice, not one to score many goals either, even as a midfielder. But that would have been a really, really nice goal had he pulled it off. So Kvitsov is off and replaced by a player who I suppose is slightly easier to pronounce, no offence. Sigankov, number 15. Sigankov also plays in Ukraine with Dynamo Kiev. Another left-footed centre-back. He played 5 matches in the Champions League group stage for Dynamo Kiev. Even scored twice. In fact, Sigankov, I apologise, is not actually a centre-back, he's a midfielder. 2 goals in 5 is a good record regardless of where you play though. Apologies to any Ukrainian viewers watching this. I am absolutely fond of many of your players, particularly Ruslan Malinovsky, who unfortunately can't play for Ukraine tonight. Who's looked almost every bit as cunning for Ukraine as he does with his club in Italy, Atalanta. Here go Ukraine forward. This is a nice sequence. It's into the box. Yarmolenko. Charge down. And it's a throw-in. So out of the back by Pickford. Not a great pass out. Gives possession straight back to Ukraine. Bushan gets it away. And the referee gives Ukraine a free kick. Sterling thinks he was the victim of that particular one. Shaparenko is indeed penalised. So it's another throw-in for England. And Ukraine tries to pass it back to keep possession, and it's found its way to Luke Shaw, who lays it off. And another good chance is straight into Georgie Bushan. It was Jadon Sancho who turned and struck it at the goalkeeper, and Shaw appeared to be just on there. He's talking about Sancho's lack of goals for England so far. No doubt frustrating. One could make the argument that in most 20-game sequences for Borussia Dortmund, he'd normally hit double digits. To be on just 3 would be disappointing. Nearly had a 4th. It's still not to be. At least not for a bit longer. But England certainly looking very threatening. That's a really nice ball through the middle. And Ukraine get into the penalty area with a very direct, beautiful direct sequence of passes. They've still got it here. And it goes behind for a corner. That was a really nice vertical football from Ukraine. Yaremchuk almost getting it through the legs of Maguire, but Stones with the crucial interception to turn it behind. And here's the corner. And it doesn't find anybody except Luke Shaw, who's nodded away with no one threatening him. And it looks like it was a foul by Roman Yaremchuk on Declan Rice. Often, inevitably at international tournaments, you get a lot of encounters between teammates from the same club playing on different international sides. It's even happened between brothers. I remember when Jerome and Kevin Prince Boateng played off between Ghana and Germany respectively at the World Cup. So of course Declan Rice, West Ham's key midfielder, along with Thomas Souček, whose tournament ended earlier today. And on Ukraine's side is Andriy Yarmolenko, who hardly featured for West Ham in the club season. 31 years old. He played in 15 matches for West Ham in the Premier League this season, but started just the once, assisted a goal. And that was against West Bromwich Albion in a 2-1 win in January. Ukraine again trying to turn it forwards. And it's still with Ukraine here. Into the box and head thrown into it, and a driven shot from distance wide. I believe by Shaparenko. Poor header out. Mount didn't attempt to block the shot. Four more minutes, potentially. I'm sure he's could well be counting stoppage time as well. Is Harry Kane. And in England, and of course Ukraine can reset. Start all over for the second half. But I think Ukraine particularly in need of a reboost. They've got some good ideas, they just haven't executed them that well. And the break will certainly help in that respect. The question is, will England deal with them? And also figure out their finishing problem, from their perspective at least. Very unselfish from Luke Shaw when he was through on goal and then laid it off for Sancho to strike. Ukraine have certainly had a lot of the ball. Possession is exactly split even. It's 50% Ukraine, 50% England so far. Indeed, England have been the more defensive side. They've cleared the ball more than Ukraine. Which says a lot about the intent and positioning of these sides. Again, the ball can't be directed at Yarmolenko. And here is Sancho. Lovely feet. Still going. Tries to feed it into Mason Mount. But it's out for another throw-in. Absolutely beautiful. Incredibly difficult to stop. We're certainly going to see a lot more of that in the Premier League. He'll certainly be dealing with deeper, more physical blocks than in Germany. Jadon Sancho, 21 years of age. Considering how long he's been on the scene for club and country, not least the former, you'd think he's older than that. And here is Sterling. The energy and momentum he carries forward is remarkable, and he's won a corner. The impetus he has in every attack. And still England's top scorer at the tournament. And of course has also set up some key goals. The referee decides that was offside. England don't get their corner. Ukraine have 1 minute and a few extra seconds to surprise here before the referee sends the players down the tunnels. Sancho, a bit more central, a bit deeper as well. Indeed, I think the two have switched sides, and this will definitely be interesting. Sancho would be on the he's now on the left side, which will probably help with Luke Shaw overlapping. Sancho an inverted winger now, and Sterling much more direct. And I've argued that he's played his better football with Manchester City on the right side, although he's not too bad cutting in and scoring. Some spectacular goals cutting in from the left. Yarmolenko making it clear whether or not Ukrainian should help Maguire up there. Certainly not impressive. England's demeanour. One last sequence perhaps before half time. Walker plays it upfield, but the referee has called time. Ukraine certainly spirited, certainly with intent, but have struggled to create chances out of their runs forward. England have been a bit better at that, but their chance conversion has certainly been poor. Nonetheless, it is Ukraine 0, England 1 going into the break. I'm going to take a break and I will see you in 15 minutes. Welcome back. Hopefully my sound is still working. Of course we are in a position where England look good for the semi-finals, but with a bit of luck and some more incisiveness, Ukraine can definitely challenge them there. Not many shots have found the target in this match so far. A lot of block shots from what I can tell. 3 shots by Ukraine have been blocked, 2 for England. England with the best clear-cut chance of the game, which fell to Harry Kane, and he scored. We're just waiting for the players to leave the tunnel. They are doing so now. Ukraine, of course, have played in, including the game tonight, their 3rd knockout game at a major competition and haven't lost one yet so far. Of course, haven't won one inside 90 minutes. Their World Cup tie, well, they did lose to Italy in the 2006 World Cup quarter-final, but I suppose nope, I made a mistake there. But it's brilliant that for Ukrainians in both tournaments where they've reached the knockout stages, they have gone on to progress to at least another round and are still in a position where they could make history. They beat Switzerland in a penalty shootout, having finished 0-0. Funnily enough, Shevchenko was the only Ukrainian to miss a penalty that night. Switzerland, conversely, saw all 3 of their penalty takers fail to score. They advanced to the quarterfinals, where they lost to Italy in a 3-0 defeat indeed. Just like in this quarterfinal, Italy led 1-0 at half-time before adding 2 goals in the second, and it goes without saying that Italy went on to win the competition. And, well, make of that what you will if you're superstitious and an England supporter. Set piece for England, again delivered by Luke Shaw, and a header, 2-0! Finally, Harry Maguire. England start the second half just like they started the first, with a goal. Maguire, who had a couple of solid headers against Germany, has finally put one away against Ukraine, who are in even bigger trouble now. An even bigger hill to climb. And he was onside. Everyone played onside there in the end. And with his physicality and his presence, held off his markers. Barely had to jump. Maguire, of course, in doubt in the early stages of the tournament for England, was injured in a match for Manchester United in the Premier League in April, I believe, against Aston Villa. Missed the rest of the club season, was on the bench for their Europa League final clash with Villarreal, but spent the whole game on the bench as they went on to lose on penalties. Came back into the starting lineup of this tournament for the 3rd game, the Czech Republic. He's been a great presence at the back and even going forward, and now in the 5th has scored his 2nd goal at a tournament. It was his header which opened the scoring for England in their last tournament quarter-final against another team in blue and yellow, Sweden. And given so many of England's goals have come from open play, as opposed to the set-piece situation, which they've relied so heavily on in other competitions, it's quite fitting they have finally scored by the method they have been so dependent on before. Right back to Bushand there. Let it bounce off his boots. And it's away. And here's Roman Yaremchuk, gets it back with Ukraine. Ukraine again bursting forwards, keeping a couple of men back in case of another England counter. Calvin Phillips trying to dispossess there. He's been excellent back and forth. Phillips, who didn't look like the best fit for England before the tournament. Hadn't played anywhere near the level he had done so for Leeds. Looks every bit the part in that double pivot. England forward again. Sterling, Shaw with a cross. 3-0. And Harry Kane level with Sterling. And it's England looking very pretty for the semi-finals once again. It's very hard on Ukraine. Their dreams of what seems going into the tournament, and especially after their last appearance at the European Championships, an impossible semi-final evaporating away. But 2 goals in the opening 5 minutes of the second half for England. Another lovely ball from Luke Shaw. And Kane's header down and through the legs of Bush, and very creative finish. He couldn't direct one of his headers earlier tonight either side of the goalkeeper, so he went down the middle in the only place he could really create space. Very efficient football. It could well be that Ukraine will just be hoping to restore some pride. They go forward once more. Of course, this is the only goal. Of course, this is the only game so far where England have scored more than twice. Slowly ramping up the number of goals in each game. 1 in the first, none in the second against Scotland. Once against the Czech Republic, then twice in their last 16 tie, and now 3 so far in just over half the game in the quarter-finals. And not even an away stadium and an away crowd can stop England, effectively the host nation, but the one game where, in terms of a crowd, they've really been challenged. They haven't let that throw them off. Replay of the VAR check, the offside check, for the goal which made it 2-0. Ball too far out to Alexander Zinchenko. And funnily enough, nearly 10 minutes into the second half, Ukraine have lost these opening 8 or so minutes 2-0, and yet have had 75% of the possession. Which shows just how efficient England can be in this competition. They're decent without the ball, deadly when they don't rely on it, and their opponents do. Getting better and better as this tournament continues. Looking very, very safe. And in a great position to face the Danes in the semi-finals. England playing with even more freedom. It's probably the only time in the tournament they've probably felt the need or allowance to do so. One of the weaker opponents they faced at the tournament so far. They're 3-0 up and cruising. Certainly can afford a bit of leeway, indeed, giving the ball away. Now pressing Yarmolenko. But it is with Ukraine. Zinchenko. England with it again. Sancho. Over the top to Sterling. Who doesn't win the header. Ukraine will play out of their own half again. And Declan Rice, fairly early into the second half, the first England substitution. I wonder if Southgate will give an opportunity. He doesn't give an opportunity to Jude Bellingham, but to Jordan Henderson, who, before his groin injury earlier in the season, was certainly expected to be one of England's key players. Rice, who suffered a small injury against Germany, preserved once again. Probably one of the England players with the biggest fitness concerns placed upon, and now we get to see how England do with a double pivot of Phillips and Henderson, although either of those two can drop into the deepest role. They're both solid in that role. Allow Mount to go further forward. Phillips to Henderson. And if England keeps scoring goals tonight, well, Jordan Henderson, remember, still not scored for the Three Lions so far. Had a chance from the spot in a friendly before the tournament against Romania, but fluffed his lines. Walker hit. Sancho. John Stones. Maguire. Followed by Pickford. Phillips. Oh, that's a really nice ball. Mason Mount. And it's cut out before Kane can get to it. England's pressing so efficient. They keep finding it in threatening areas. Walker gets it back to club teammate Stones. Maguire. Kane forwards into Sancho. Nice exchanges. Kane. Cleared behind. Looks like it's going to be a corner for England. Jordan Henderson, who has not yet started a game for England at this tournament so far, it is a throw-in instead. From the angle in which the camera was placed, it didn't look like there was like it might have been going away from the corner flag rather than towards it. Again, cleared out. That definitely is a throw-in. Sancho. Is with Maguire. Phillips. Henderson. Maguire. It's with Luke Shaw cutting in fields. Maguire. Stones. England just taking their time here. Henderson. Almost as a centre-back there, as he's played a number of times with mixed results, to say the least, for Liverpool. Phillips. Short. Short into Mount. Throw in. Sterling. Short. Henderson. Henderson with a Kane. Oh! Fine save from Bushan. And well, it's certainly clear, and that's an excellent ball from Henderson in the end. The volley and fingertips from Bushan. Wonderful save. And with every team that departs the tournament, you have to be sad to see it's the end of some fantastic displays from so many players. Well, France weren't particularly great against the Swiss. It was sad to see the end of Paul Pogba. In comes the corner. Another header. It's 4. What a time. Jordan Henderson scores his first goal for England. It's overdue. Long overdue. Absolutely fantastic. And it was Mount's delivery. Henderson charged through his markers. and was completely free in the end to direct that down past Bushan, who has been pretty helpless with some of the goals, if not all of them. Makarenko comes on for Ukraine in the place of the deepest playmaker for England, for Ukraine, sorry, Sergei Sidorchuk, Kieran Trippier, Jude Bellingham, Marcus Rashford. Coming onto the field, Luke Shaw coming off. Trippier will fill in for him at left back as he did at the start of the tournament. Southgate played Trippier at left back, more so because he felt it would be a good protection for the experience at tournament level at least. Tyrone Mings, Raheem Sterling off for Rashford, who has been used sparingly at this tournament. He's due to have surgery whenever the Three Lions run comes to an end. Whether that's in the semi-finals, in the final, or after lifting the trophy, remains to be seen. Calvin Phillips off for the young Jude Bellingham. And this is a good time for England to explore possible alternatives, tactical and strategic opportunities. Going into the semi-final, which they'll probably again be favourites to win, but as we've seen with so many of these games, so much is possible, and Denmark have been such a determined side in their own right, and England should have no reason to write them off, even though they are all but set to return to Wembley for that game. Ultimately, it's been very clinical finishing from England. They've had 4 big chances to score. Ukraine none, by the way. But they've had 9 shots, 6 of which have been on target. 4 big chances, all of which have gone into the net. Here's Marcus Rashford. Great run forwards. And gets another corner. And many will say that it's comfortably a beatable side, Ukraine. And that header cannot be directed at goal by Maguire. But given how England have played opponents as beatable of these and have struggled to score more than 1 goal, to score 4, that is quite the progress under Gareth Southgate. To be honest though, I do feel that with some time, maybe some new players, Ukraine themselves can improve, and this quarter-final isn't going to be a flash in the pan for them either. It's been fantastic to see such a well-spirited team, and that's not just in the tournament, in the qualifiers leading up to it. Put on a set of performances like these. There was no doubt a lot of risk with Ukraine signing, bringing on Andriy Shevchenko as the manager. As I said earlier in my coverage, he had practically 0 experience as a manager. He had been an assistant coach during Euro 2016. And there was definitely pressure on him when he couldn't get Ukraine qualified for the 2018 World Cup. was indeed an assistant coach for Ukraine during that tournament in 2016. A very frustrating one for them. Has been the manager ever since then. They've waited, along with every other nation, bar 4, through the Nations League playoffs. They have waited nearly 2 years to take part in these games in the group stages. And it's Ukraine and England even weren't necessarily fancied, but they've certainly had performances to remember, no matter how far England progress. Even if Ukraine get eliminated tonight, will pull off an incredible comeback. Maybe this is the start of it. A nice ball forward, which Pickford does well. And they try and direct the shots into the, at the time, empty net, but it was blocked. That's 8 goals scored, 0 conceded. And that's not the tidiest clearance from Pickford. I can't tell if he's jumping out of frustration or whether he's pulled something. 20 minutes to play in Rome. And even if he is injured, Sam Johnston has filled in admirably. Had that excellent double save against Romania. Certainly as good a shot stopper for England as Pickford has been, and Pickford has been fantastic for England. It's a much quieter game, understandably. Stones. So Walker. Henderson. Jordan Henderson, I believe this is his 5th international tournament as a substitute under Hodgson in Euros 2012 and 16. Started games at the 2014 World Cup. That's a ambitious ball forward by Bellingham. Mounts Rashford. Henderson, of course, started games at the 2018 World Cup. He was England's deepest and probably hardest working midfielder. He's hardly featured this tournament more because of fitness issues, but ultimately he has struggled and ultimately failed to fully displace either of Rice or Phillips, who have been the starting midfielders in all of England's 5 games so far. Another substitution. Kane leaving the field for Dominic Calvert-Lewin. The captain has had an excellent game. Now England's joint top scorer. Unless Sterling can add to his tally tonight. Of course he can't. Has been bought off. But there is still the semi-final at least to play as things stand. Great run into the box there. And just fending off Ukraine's press there, getting the ball back. Pickford does clear it away in the end. Gets to an England shirt, but the second ball is won by a Ukrainian player. Forward they come now. Oh! Good reflexes by Pickford, or did that come off the post even? Looping deflected cross, which makes its way back to the England number one. No, it was fisted away by Pickford, who hasn't looked particularly fit in the latter stages of this match. It might not matter at this point. And for all the accusations of arrogance thrown at England, they could definitely take off Pickford, put an outfield player in goal and still hold on. Walker to Henderson. Volleyed pass forwards into Sancho. The cross across. Doesn't reach anyone. But it's England's throw-in. Sancho will take the throw-in. Nope. He gave it to Kyle Walker. Free kick against Ukraine. It was Yarmolenko who handled it. England's XG in this match is 1.9, Ukraine's 0.2. And after so many games of struggling to score, maybe it was due that England were going to score going to get a pretty big return. And they'll hope to continue that against Denmark, who themselves have scored 4 goals in 2 matches in this tournament already, against Wales in their last 16 clash and in their final group game, as they needed to, against Russia, to get out of a very tricky situation, which they have ultimately done and followed up from admirably, Denmark. Set for their first tournament semi-final since the Euros, which they of course won in 1992. They've been to quarter-finals as well, the quarter-finals of the 1998 World Cup, the quarter-finals of Euro 2004, and were a penalty shootout away from doing the same in 2018, but were pipped by eventual World Cup finalists Croatia. Another word on Denmark is how well they've gotten over the loss of Christian Eriksen. That's a good ball. Ukraine forward now, but it's cleared almost nonchalantly by Maguire. Certainly one of Ukraine's more threatening sequences of play so far. go forward again here. Ukraine certainly wanting to salvage some pride. And Ukraine have a corner. Past and present, Everton teammates preparing. I should say past and present players for Everton, not teammates, I believe. Pickford arrived after John Stones left. Corner in, headed out. Ukraine still in possession. Certainly to go home with a goal. Break England's sequence of going without conceding. They've only let in one goal at all since losing 2-0 in the Nations League to Belgium in Brussels in November. Kept a clean sheet against Iceland, clean sheets against San Marino no less, and Albania. A John Stones mistake allowed a goal for Poland in the World Cup qualifiers. That's for the World Cup next year in Qatar. None in the two friendlies against Austria and Romania. And none in the 4.5 plus games so far. 4 games in 80 minutes. That ball going nowhere. Nice ball forward into Marcus Rashford. It was too ambitious in the end, and with his immense acceleration, Rashford couldn't get on the end of it. Forward they go once more. See the Three Lions. Trippier. Mount. Bellingham. Kyle Walker. Sancho. Feints past his fullback. And he still continues, or until he can go no further. The referee has blown for a foul. Sancho deemed to have impeded Mykolenko there. Another direct sequence from Ukraine. Good feet from Yaremchuk, but he is soon tackled, dispossessed. England have the ball again. This is certainly one of England's most dominant performances in a knockout game at any tournament. Something they're not used to doing in the past. The 2018 World Cup penalty shootout win against Colombia was their first knockout win of any kind since the 2006 World Cup, where they beat Ecuador 1-0. And in 2018 also beat Sweden 2-0. They beat Denmark 3-0 in their first knockout tie in 2002. Beat Spain on penalties after a 0-0 draw in Euro 96 at Wembley. Beat Belgium 1-0, Cameroon 3-2 in the Italia 90 World Cup of 1990. So, to a large extent, I'm also forgetting that they also beat Paraguay 3-0 in the last 16 in the 1986 World Cup. England have certainly haven't scored this many in a knockout game of any kind, although the ball given away to Ukraine there. But there's some nice skill, and it's with Sancho to direct it out. No, I wasn't even around in the 1986, and I can tell you that even back then, England haven't been anywhere near a game with this margin of victory. And you may wonder, important the things to come, because Ukraine certainly aren't the worst opponents England have faced in knockout tournaments, even going back 35 years. And still, in this tournament, no goals conceded. The only team remaining for that yet to happen. But still, it's great to see from Ukraine still pressing forward. Certainly out of the game now. But proving that they won't quit. They will keep pushing on. Very admirable. There's been signs throughout the tournament that if they were in such a situation, they would still do this. Of course, they went 2-0 down against the Netherlands in the first group game and yet pulled it back to 2-2 very quickly. With an excellent strike from Yarmolenko, which will stick in the minds of many long after the tournament is gone. Beautiful, bending strike. And then a wonderful cross from the sadly absent tonight Ruslan Malinovsky onto the head of Roman Yaremchuk. Although a header from the Netherlands themselves, Denzel Dumfries, winning the match late for them. And hopefully this isn't the last we see of them at a tournament, and we hope that they will surprise again at another tournament in the near future. I can say that for pretty much all the other departed sides and newer teams not in terms of their country's existence, but in terms of their appearances at tournaments. Another ball forwards. But again, England position themselves well. Ukraine get it back though. Comfortably back with Pickford. We're in the 89th minute. England's reached their first semi-finals since the 1960s in 1990. Since 1968 indeed. Of course, would go on to reach the semi-finals again on home soil in 1996, and who would have thought that that would be their last appearance in the semi-final for 22 years, given how often they've underperformed at tournaments. Maybe that's not so much of a surprise. The surprise is that they've continued to appear. Ukraine waiting to make 3 late substitutions. This England team keep stepping up notches. The ball's all been with Ukraine the last few minutes, and may well be the case until the final whistle blows. They're going to make the most of every touch, every pass, while they're still in this tournament, even if the result is beyond recovery now. Forwards again. And there's the final whistle. England are through to a semi-final for the 3rd competition running. And that's a lovely sight. Shevchenko briefly embracing with Southgate. As I've said, 2 inexperienced managers on the international scene, and yet both have taken their teams further than they might have expected before this tournament. Both were considered potential surprises, if not front runners. England, with one of their most dominant performances in living memory in all of international football. No need for Jack Grealish to weave his magic again tonight. But Ukraine will head home as proud as any team at this competition. They have been an absolutely wonderful team to witness, and I hope to see them again personally at more tournaments in the future. The semi-finals will start on Tuesday, concluding on Wednesday. 1 on Tuesday, 1 on Wednesday. First, Spain against Italy, and then England against Denmark the day after. Both semi-finals and final taking place in London. It's a repeating feature with so many tournaments. More and more recently, we're seeing the final games of a knockout competition taking place in the same arena with the Women's World Cup in 2019. The semi-finals and final were all held in the stadium of Olympique Lyonnais, which is arguably the leading club in women's football. And as I expected, and I'm glad to see, Ukraine players and fans and coaching staff alike with their heads held high. The drum will keep banging. You do wonder what could have happened if Malinovsky had been able to take part in the game. You can see that they are truly happy to have gotten this far at least. And best of luck for the World Cup and the next European Championships in 3 years' time. And this stadium will bring back memories for Shevchenko and for all the goals he may have scored in Serie A many years ago. This will be one of his proudest moments, I'm sure, even though there is going to be inevitable sorrow. But England did what they have done with so many of their opponents at this tournament so far. Soaked up pressure and then waited to strike. An extraordinary victory. And will give them a lot of hope and goodwill, a lot of motivation and confidence going into the semi-final. And who knows, maybe even that first tournament final since 1966. We'll have to wait and see. I will be covering both semi-finals in the tournaments. Starting on Tuesday. I'm pretty tired, so I'll have a rest again. But it's certainly been still a great tournament as we're heading into its final throws. And maybe a couple more twists in store here. I don't know what those might be, but I'll be back on Tuesday. So it's bye for now and take care. See you for the semi-finals.